Are we all set?
You're on.
So, a very good morning to all of you on this fine morning with a very bright weather today, on the first day of Slichus. The title of today's Shia was Withstanding Temptation. Something with which every one of us is challenged, everybody on his own level. And when we talk about withstanding temptation, it's not only an issue in Yiddishkeit, it's an issue in Bechlal, in daily life, even in profane life, nothing to do with spirituality. We're always confronted with things that we would like to withstand, to resist. But temptation teases us very much and brings us to is English okay? I think so. Okay.
Oh, come on, please, thank you, Hadas.
So we are challenged with it almost on a daily basis, probably even more than one time a day. And again, everybody on his own level doesn't make a difference which level you're on. You're always confronted with a kind of temptation. In Yiddish Rochnius, there's always talk about what we call in Ivrit Nekudat HaBchira. Everybody has his own level of where he's standing, and on that level, there's always a point of choice where you're whatever level you're on. Some person, probably most of us, hopefully most of us, would not have a temptation. Let's say if we go to the Delhaize and we see a nice something nice but pretty expensive, we would not have the temptation of slipping it into a pocket and making our way out. But again, that depends on what level you're on. So everybody on his own level, if somebody is on that level, so that's his temptation. Somebody else who's not heimish with the concept of stealing would not be on that level. He would not have a nekudat habchira, but he would have on a higher level nekudat habchira. Everybody, as low or as high as you are, you always have on that point that you're standing. You always have some kind of choice, which in you are tempted, and you're not strong enough to resist the temptation, or you're afraid that you're not strong enough to resist temptation. So how do we do that? So I'm not going to be giving a Musa Shia on how to resist temptation, and that you should resist temptation. If I have to speak to anybody about that, I would speak to myself, and I probably would not let you listen into what I say to myself on that issue. But I would like to pose a question. I would like to start with a question. I've posed this question to a lot of people, audiences, adults, children. The question is as follows. I think we can all agree that challenges are not pleasant. Challenges in life are difficult. When we could avoid challenges, we would try to do that as much as possible. The harder, the more difficult the challenge, the less motivation we have to go against that challenge, to conquer it. Challenges are by nature difficulty. People experience a challenge as a level of difficulty. The higher the challenge, the higher the difficulty. So it's normally in life, challenge is not what you're looking for. Challenge is where you have to really overcome something. Is not. We would like to have life go smoothly. We can all agree to that. I can see some people creasing their brows, not so sure about that. But I think if you take just a half a minute, you would realize that in most aspects of life, if you have the chance to take on a challenge, to take on the difficulty, but you also have the option of taking another way in which you would avoid that challenge or difficulty, of course you would try to avoid it.
I don't think challenge and difficulty is the same.
Okay,
I would rather choose the term not נקודת הבחירה, נקודת השבירה.
Okay.
That's the right term.
Right. Okay.
The breaking point.
The breaking point. Right. Okay.
Not the bchira.
They're both the same. I think we're it's just you're looking at the same point from two different
that's for sure.
Yeah.
This juncture is the same, but
why would you say that
Because sometimes challenge, when you deal with it, you even enjoy it. It depends what it is.
Well, I would say the same about difficulty.
Difficulty.
When you have a difficulty and you've dealt with it.
Difficulty is something we try to avoid. Challenge, some people enjoy it.
Okay. Right. Okay. Exactly. But it is also true that when you meet difficulty and you deal with it successfully, you also enjoy it.
not only that, the Gemara is telling us, "Ein simcha ke'atarat hasfikot."
Right.
That's not a challenge. That's if you don't know what to do.
Safek?
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
a fake. But that's
Okay.
not a challenge.
Right, but he's comparing.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
borrow
Yeah, you can
borrow the
borrow,
same
yeah,
concept
yeah.
from there, in the sense that that you're relieved. The sense of relief that you have when the safek is resolved, it's the same sense of relief. It's comparable. The same sense of relief you might have by having successfully overcome a difficulty. But again, let's not call it challenge. Let's talk about difficulty. Difficulty itself is something we would try to avoid in every aspect of life. We all agree on that?
Also pain, no? You like to avoid pain. It's also
Pain is a type of difficulty, yeah. Do we all agree that the difficulty is something? I need you all to agree before we go on to the question.
No objection.
No objection.
But what is the relationship? Challenge?
So forget it. I bow to Mr.
Babel.
Okay, I bow to him. Let's leave the word challenge aside. We will come back to that. Let's take the word difficulty, because that's something we can all agree on. Difficulty is to be avoided at all costs, right? In all aspects of life. Now, I'd like to direct our attention to an aspect that we are all very, very familiar with, which actually proves the opposite. If you ever walk with kids to a game store, if you ever try to buy for a kid a Game Boy, well, maybe today's new generation is got much more, but PlayStations, whatever you like. You walk into you've I don't know, you've promised him for Alfred Koyman you're going to buy him the newest PlayStation, the newest Game Boy, the newest everything. You walk in with kids to that kind of store, and you find something and you want to buy this. What would the kid at first tell you? I mean, you might have luck and found the real thing, the latest, most recent. But in most cases, your kid will tell you that's not good. And why is it not good?
The better one. There's a better one.
Why is the better one better?
Because his friend has got it.
Sorry?
Because my friend has got
Right, but why is it so exciting that his friend has got it?
it. It must be better.
Why is it better? When you're buying a Game Boy or a game, whatever,
More
PlayStation,
How more challenging, more.
lo and behold, the more difficult the game is, the more exciting it is. This Game Boy is not good anymore because it's too easy. I can finish it in 2 hours. I'm finished. This one is harder because there are levels. This one, and you can hear kids speaking to each other. This Game Boy, this level, you can't finish it. It's impossible to finish it. There's that jump there, and that jumps, and there's a monster that jumps out from behind, It's impossible. I've tried every way. It's impossible to do it.
Which is a good thing.
Which makes it exciting. And that's the reason that the kid wants dafka this game and not something else. Now, if our principle, the one we agreed on after some argument, the principle that we agreed on, that difficulty is to be avoided at all costs, it would make sense to say that the most exciting Game Boy is the one that has the least difficulty. Okay, so we're all smiling. Nah, it's not. It's a different story. So the question I'm posing to you is, what makes it, if we agree that in all aspects of life, difficulty is something that we do anything to avoid, why is it that when it comes to games, it's
Because
the
they're for
opposite?
pleasure.
That's where we're looking for difficulty.
Yeah, for pleasure. The purpose is to be able to show that I can solve this
Okay,
difficulty.
but before we start, let me tell you from experience, we can all try to answer this question. It can take a lot of time, and there are many. But I'm not gonna let you get away with an easy answer. So let's say so let's hear what you're saying. It's for pleasure, no?
And it's tempting to be able to say, oh, it's very difficult, but I nevertheless overcame it. I managed to do it.
As a reward.
But since when is difficulty pleasing?
Because this is intellectual. It's intellectual.
If you're stuck in the level.
It's
If you're stuck in the level, you will
It's not
like
really
it.
intellectual. It's
No.
very
No,
practical.
okay.
Very.
If you're stuck on the level, you will not like it. If he stays for 2 months on the same place, you cannot move on, you will not be happy.
In real life, you want to avoid difficulties, but in a game, in an artificial situation, you want a challenge.
Right.
Challenge.
Okay. So the fact that it's just a second. So these two people are saying it depends if it's reality or fiction. In reality, I would like to avoid difficulty. In fiction, in a make-believe world,
Imaginary.
in imaginary world, virtual world. Thank you very much. In a virtual world, difficulty seems to be. Is that right?
It's a reward, maybe the reward that you receive. You receive a reward from it. A pleasure, and that's it, I think.
One.
I don't think it's difficult at all. I think it's challenge again.
That's why I agree with you, and let's put the challenge aside. So now we're coming back to it. So you're saying, okay, that's not difficulty. I would not name it difficulty. I would name it challenge.
Yeah, the kid, it's a challenge.
Right. So what happened? Why do we suddenly we all agree that difficulty has a second name? It has one name, difficulty, but it has a second name. It can be called challenge. Why, in reality, are we not aware of the fact that difficulty is in itself a challenge too? Why do we all agree that in reality difficulty is to be avoided, and in the virtual world we seem to realize right away, oh, this is not difficult, this is challenge, pleasing, exciting, it's something to be something to do.
Maybe nothing happens if he fails. You can start again, restart, you can save, you can step out
Okay.
any moment.
A lot of kids use that. You can just turn on the game again. If you lost, there's an undo, not on the Game Boys, but there's a but you can always go back. You lost the level, you can do it again and again and again until you
And no one has to know about it.
no one has to know about it.
Yeah. In real life, there is no reset button.
There's no reset button.
Game over and start again.
You failed, and the failure is there to
Real,
stay.
yeah.
The failure is there to stay. But if we would have a lot of time, we can analyze these answers, and you say if that's the answer, that I can start again and again and again and again, I would go back to reality, and I would look into reality and search for the same. Okay, if I fail once, that failure is there to stay, like you say, but I can try again and again and again until I succeed.
That people know about it.
But that is not what reality tells us. Reality tells us if you fail once or twice, 3 times, there's an amount of failures that you can take, and after a certain amount, everybody has his own quota. After a certain amount, you give up. You are right that with a Game Boy, if you've tried like 500 times and it's impossible, then it's impossible. But kids don't say that, by the way, because it's impossible for it to be impossible, otherwise it wouldn't be in the game, right? Which is actually what Chazal tell us, by the way, about if Hashem wants us to do something, it is impossible to be impossible, right? But apparently, in games we are aware of that. In real life, we are not aware of that. So, what is it? What else can you find as a difference between virtual worlds, imaginary worlds, make-believe worlds, and reality, real life?
The
What's the
immediate
difference?
consequence.
Okay, let's hear.
How it affects the person. Game doesn't affect him really.
Right? Why not?
Nobody sees, he's challenging himself.
And if he's got a whole crowd in the back following,
Then he will
big screen.
fail easier than by himself. He will not admit.
Right. So if it's on a big screen, it's projected for everybody to follow.
He won't repeat it too many times if he fails.
He's not even going to try because he doesn't want the failure.
That's right.
You sure of that?
Because it affects.
It's going to affect him more, but it's not going to stop him trying.
No. If you see the Olympics, everybody wants to. No, they don't give up. They want to show. They want to try.
Everybody wants to be the first.
The first,
not the
yes.
second.
So okay. So but they try.
But if they fall down about running, let's say they fall down, they're not going to. And then you could try again. They will not try
No,
10
no,
times
because
again.
they've lost anyhow. You don't.
Right,
you
they don't give you a
arrive as
second
the first
chance. They don't give you a second chance.
one. Yeah.
Do we need to use the
There-
word shame?
I don't know. We're discussing this now. Let's.
I thought that you have got answers already.
I have one answer. The truth is, and I always tell the kids this when I discuss this with kids. There is no true answer. But okay, the time being what it is.
It's only illusion.
Yeah.
Time being what it is, I would like to suggest something, and I suggest this to kids. They first say, "Ugh." But then after we talk about it a few minutes, they all agree. The suggestion I do to kids is, I ask them a next question. What is the most important aspect of your game? Of your Game Boy? You see the screen, you see the buttons, what is the most important piece there, the most important element, that if you would take that element away, it would lose the whole meaning. Well, of course, you can take away the whole game, and it wouldn't be there. But if you would have the whole game, the game consists of tens of elements, if not hundreds, but tens of elements that we can think of, maybe, right? Which one element, seemingly unimportant, if you would
That
take
somebody else at a certain moment knows about it, or that you tell him about it. If it stays between you and the Game Boy, then it's not so exciting anymore, because you see that you're succeeding in something, but nobody else knows about it.
Okay. I'm not talking about.
High
I'm talking
school.
about in the game,
Okay.
in the Game Boy, in the console, whatever it's called.
Yeah.
If the manufacturers would forget about one element and they would not include that in the game would have no meaning, or almost no meaning.
The high score.
The reward.
The high score.
The structure, how it is the goal of the game, the goal,
Reaching
the
the goal.
meaning,
No, I
how
think
you
the
win
points,
it.
the score, the points.
Right. It's the suggestion I do to kids is the reward. It's that small. Why do they say? Ugh? It's that small on the top right corner. I don't know. I'm not so familiar with all the games, but I think it's always on the top right corner, of the screen. There's a counter there. It's counting your points, counting your score. Every jump you make, every difficulty you encounter, and you overcome that difficulty, earns you more points. Am I right about that? I don't know who's the most familiar.
For some games without any scores or any progress, it's a different way of actually playing the game.
Right.
For the score.
I would like to claim, you may refute that claim, that games that will not let you in on the score will not give you a real-time feedback of what you're scoring. You're going to drop it after a short time.
It has to be score.
That's partially true.
Partially true.
You mean score, numbers,
I'm
or
gonna
any
have
kind
I'm
of
gonna have to
score?
drop this whole. I've used this a few times, but if
No,
you're
because
Basic-
some games work in one way and some games work in other way. But
right.
you're actually only referring to one aspect of one kind of games.
Well, my claim is the game can only remain exciting despite failure when you're getting a score, when you're getting a feedback.
Otherwise, it's boring.
Otherwise, it's not only boring. Otherwise, I'm experiencing only the negative part of the difficulty. That's the vot. That's the vot here.
So it's not always score. You mean say it's not score, it could be in levels or even
Right. You could get levels, you could get lives.
There are even some games in which there's no goals or no levels or no progress can make.
Right.
But for example, some girls play. It's okay. I don't like the game personally, but it's a game about having a family and all that stuff and.
Right. Okay.
right, but then you're building something. You get to
Yeah,
build a
but
family
it's
or
not really. You can't really see the progress.
you mean like
so-
Sims or something like
Didn't you say
Yeah.
it's girls that plays it?
that? Yeah, but then you
Not
have a
only
family.
imagine.
Not only girls. No.
Like a second life. You know, second life.
The crowd was actually the main crowd was actually playing those games are girls, but what I actually mean is
Because of
that
the
not all
context,
games-
it's the context that
not
appeals
all
to girls.
games work the same as you do actually describe with a score or a progress within levels.
Okay.
So it's
How do you know it's going
Okay.
okay.
You know what? Are we all familiar with computers here? Are we all familiar with computers? I think one of the most common games that people know on computers today is Minesweeper. You know what a Minesweeper
Yeah,
is?
that comes with Windows.
Yeah, that's something you do when you have 5 minutes and you don't know what to do with those 5 minutes. So you open up the Minesweeper. Now you ask kids about the Minesweeper. It's pretty boring. It can be the first few times it's okay, but if you lose, you lose, and you can almost find all the mines. But if you make the last box, you make that one mistake, it's finished. Why is it unexciting? If it would include, if they would ask me, unfortunately they're not asking me, the manufacturers, if they would ask me, I would tell them to include a score there, and I assure you, I can guarantee, if the manufacturer would manufacture a Minesweeper with a score, it would be much more enticing, much more exciting.
Actually, there is one. It's
Oh.
with time. So
Yeah,
the less time you actually do it, the higher your high score actually is.
But it doesn't tell me that.
And not always.
It should.
No.
It should. If it would tell me that, it's like, ta-da! You've done it in right?
But
It would be.
It's only repetitive. So that's actually why.
That's why it's repetitive, because it does not include a score. It does not include. Actually, what we're talking about is a sense of achievement.
Yeah, you can make a bigger one. You can make a bigger one.
Yeah, you can make a bigger one, but
You can.
right. So that's what we're talking about actually now is difficulty can only be experienced as challenge when you have at the end of overcoming that difficulty, when you have a sense of achievement. When you feel after overcoming that difficulty that you've achieved something, that's when you can call the difficulty a challenge. Challenge is a positive spin in language. It's a positive spin on difficulty. Difficulty itself is negative. When does difficulty become positive? And when does it deserve the name challenge? When I can have at the end of overcoming it the sense of achievement.
Retrospectively.
Sorry? Retrospectively. But also again, if I'm anticipating the sense of achievement at the end, then it doesn't have to be retroactive. From the beginning, going into that difficulty, I'm already anticipating the hopeful sense of achievement that I will have by overcoming that difficulty. That's the point of this whole discussion. Meaning, and it should be a very easy suggestion now, but of course, in itself, that would be a difficulty in itself. That would be a challenge in itself. If we are confronted with temptation, and we experience it in a negative manner, because it's very hard and difficult for us to resist, very difficult for us to withstand the temptation, we are perceiving the difficulty only in its negative form. What we are missing is the anticipation of achievement.
Can you repeat this? Meaning that
if we cannot withstand temptation, if we are experiencing regularly, repetitively, that any challenge is, we are only experiencing it as a difficulty, we are only feeling it, the negative aspect of the problem, that means that we're missing the positive spin. The positive spin, the anticipation of achieving at the end the overcoming of the difficulty. If we would be able, with any temptation, with any problem, with any difficulty, if we will be able from minute number 1 to anticipate a sense of achievement at the end, we would always, whenever confronting a problem, we would always not only see it as a problem, we would also see it as a positive challenge, something to look forward to, and something to take on head on, is the way we call it in English, because I want to have that fulfillment, I want to have that satisfaction of achieving the winning of the problem.
This is the solution for every problem, actually.
That's the solution to every
You know,
problem.
the score in life.
If you think that every difficulty you will gain some benefit, then of course life looks much better.
Are you
I would like to stop now, because that's when you stop when you're winning, right? But this is exactly the point of the whole discussion here.
Are you suggesting here to ignore the element of fear of failing?
No, you cannot do that. You cannot neglect the fact that there is a negative aspect here. You can't take that away.
But you hope to win
if you're completely ignoring the negative aspect of it, then you're just not connected to reality. You're not connected to reality. The truth is, let's go a step further. You will never have the sense of achievement at the end if you don't feel the difficulty. You need that negative difficulty to enhance the sense of achievement you're going to have in the end. The harder the difficulty, the greater the sense of achievement when you overcome it. But you need to have that sense of achievement. So as this fine man says, that would be the solution to every problem. The first thing that you have to do when you're confronting a problem is find that sense of achievement. So getting back to Yiddishkeit, because at the end of the day we have to come back to that. That's our reality. In our reality, there is a very strong perceived difference between mitzvos and averos. Somehow, I think we will all agree that when you're confronted with a nisayon is a type of difficulty, right? To do or not to do. Somehow, when you're confronted with a nisayon of a mitzvah, you are required to do something, but you don't have. That's one type of nisayon, and then there's the other type of nisayon. Shev va'al ta'aseh. The first one is kum va'aseh. Yiddishkeit is telling you, do something, and not so easy. And then you have the shev va'al ta'aseh. Yiddishkeit is telling you, do not do it, and you would like to do it. Somehow, it's much easier to overcome the nisayon of kum va'aseh than the other one. I don't have cheshik. I don't have how do you say cheshik in English? I don't have the motivation to get up today to daven with minyan, or I don't have the motivation to give a certain amount of tzedakah, or anything. I'm not saying it's easy, but you can see yourself pretty easily. It's not so hard for yourself to imagine overcoming that nisayon. I will get up. Today I'm going to get up and daven with minyan. Today I'm going to give that amount of tzedukah. Yesterday I didn't, tomorrow I don't know. Now I have this amount, I can probably spare it. Today I'm going to give that amount of tzedukah. When it comes to shev al ta'aseh, when Yiddishkeit is telling you to not do it, and you want to overcome it, you have the temptation to do it, it's harder to overcome that temptation. Do you agree with me on that?
Shev al ta'aseh has got the intonation of passive, remaining passive.
Exactly. When overcoming the nisayon involves something active, it's easier. When you're actively overcoming the nisayon. In shev al ta'aseh, overcoming the nisayon would be passive. By not doing something, you will be overcoming your nisayon. And somehow, the active triumph is easier than the passive triumph.
Instant gratification and long-term recompense.
So you're back to your reward. Oh, yeah. Why choose something else if your first answer was the winning one, right? But that's the true thing. When you're actively overcoming your nisayon, the sense of achievement is concrete. You feel it. In truth, there's no difference. But in our perception, actively doing something by which you're winning gives you a sense that you've achieved something. I've got something. I did something. Passively overcoming your nisayon does not leave you with anything in your hands. There's nothing you can look at and say, this is. You don't have your trophy. Do you know what the trophy is? Actively overcoming an nisayon gives you at least a virtual trophy. Passively overcoming an nisayon doesn't leave you with anything. It goes even further than that, and that is, and I would like to. We're gonna have to finish here. I would like to take this point a bit further. The fact that an active overcoming gives you a trophy, it permits you to look at your nisyonot in a, what we call in English, in an episodic. They're not connected. I'm going to get up today to daven with minyan, right? How about yesterday? How about the day before yesterday? How about last week? How about the whole year? I didn't get up to daven with minyan. Is that going to stop me today? If I have the power today to get up and daven with minyan, is the fact that I haven't done that the whole past year, is that going to stop me? It's gonna add an element. I'm sure it's going to add an element, but it's not really gonna stop me.
Each case on his own merit,
right.
Not accumulative.
Exactly, and that's what we call in English episodic. Every case is perceived by me as a different episode. So the last year I had a lot of episodes, failed, but it doesn't mean that the episode of today has to be connected to the past. In Sheva Al Ta'aseh, that's not true. We always get the feeling that since we have failed in that passive nisayon, and we've done it again, we've done what we're not allowed to do again and again and again and again, it leaves me powerless. It gives me the feeling, let's take an example. I'll be very careful here with the examples that we're going to take. Something parve, not milchik, not fleischig. Let's call it eating something that's not so kosher, right? Eating something that's not so kosher. If I've been doing that the whole time, and now I've got something right, very very teasing, tantalizing. It's my taste buds are going haywire, right? And it's right before me, warm. And I have this sense I would like to overcome that nisayon. The fact that I've the whole past year not being overcoming that nisayon is going to very much influence the situation now. For some reason or other, I cannot have that perception that every case has its own merit. I don't have that episodic sense. Somehow in my mind, they're all connected. And if I've been doing the wrong thing in the past, it's going to influence my power to overcome the problem now. So in Sheva Alta, in Kumva Asay, I can treat it episodically. Every case on its own. In Sheva Alta Asay, everything is going to be connected. Why is that? For the same reason. It's for the same reason. Because kum va'aseh, with every case, I feel if I triumph, I get a trophy. That trophy is telling me, forget about what happened yesterday, forget about what happened the day before, now you got a trophy. And you put it aside, lock it up in your silver shine, you got that trophy, nobody will be able to take that trophy away from you. But in Shev va'al ta'aseh, if I overcome my ta'ava, and I resist the temptation, I don't feel I have a trophy. So how am I going to be judging myself? Have I succeeded or failed? The only way I can judge myself is by taking everything into consideration. So the whole past comes into the calculation here. I have no trophies to show. So the only way I can judge myself if I'm how I am in this issue, of course I'm going to take my whole past into consideration, and that's where I feel powerless. Because
is nothing. You didn't do anything.
You didn't do anything because it's passive. You're missing that sense of achievement. So then the only way I can judge myself, look at myself, and see where am I in this issue, I'm going to have to take the whole past. That's where I feel powerless. Meaning that when we're confronted with temptation, the way we should treat it is by seeking the sense of achievement and disconnecting this episode from the past. Not only from the past, even from the future. Some people would say, not only have I been over this Aveira many times, but I really don't see myself commit myself to the future either. I don't know how difficult it's going to be. So you have to be able to disconnect this case right now from the rest. The only way you can disconnect it from the rest is by enhancing the sense of achievement that you have at this present moment. If you would be able to virtualize the trophy that you're going to get by overcoming this nisayon, that would give you the chance to disconnect this from the rest. So I would like to suggest that there's a Mama Chazal, and I'm ending with this, okay? I had more, but we don't have time for more. Let's just end with a Mama Chazal, a very famous one. And Chazal tell us in Kiddushin Daf Mem Amud Beis, Tonu Rabbonon, le'olam, always, yire odom atzmoi keilu chetzio zakai v'chetzio chayav. Chazal are giving us the perception of life that you're supposed to have. You should always perceive yourself as being right in the middle, smack in the middle. You are on the scales, on your judgment scale, you are completely level now. You are completely balanced. And this one thing that you're going to do is going to tip the scales, either on the positive side or on the negative side. Le'olam yireh adam atzmo ke'ilu chetzio chayav v'chetzio. Also mitzvah achas, if you do that one mitzvah, that's going to tip it on that side. Shehichriya ashrov, his ashrecha. If you do that one mitzvah, hichriya atzmo lekav zechut, avar avera, oy lo shehichriya atzmo lekav chova. Okay. And then the Gemara goes on and brings us a pasuk, and the pasuk says, "Sheneemar v'chote echad ya'abed tova harbe." With one sin, you're going to lose a lot of good. I have two problems with this Gemara. First, this pasuk that the Gemara brings. Why does the Gemara only bring a pasuk on the negative side? Give me at least a balance here. You're trying to teach me balance, so why are you bringing a pasuk only on the negative side? Bring me a pasuk on the positive side too. I feel that as a problem. The next problem I have is with the whole instruction Chazal are giving us. What are Chazal teaching us? For heaven's sake, are they teaching us to look at yourself in an illusionary way? I know what I am. I know what I've done and not done. What am I? I'm going to clean your slate and look at yourself as if you're half zakai and half chayav. That's not true. So why? And you know what? If I'm going to fail, I'm going to over the aveira, and 5 minutes later I have another challenge. Am I going to tell myself again? Chetzio chayav, chetzio zakai. Just 5 minutes ago you told me that, and I failed. The scales are not in my favor anymore, and you're telling me they're back. What happened? When did they tip back? So Chazal are actually telling us to fool ourselves. It's not true. It's like I'd be telling a kid, a Rebbe would be telling a kid, you'll see, you'll succeed. You can say that one time, twice, three times, just so many times. But after so many failures, you can't tell a kid you'll see that you'll succeed. No, I won't succeed. I'm not succeeding. My scales are not in my favor anymore. So what are Chazal telling us? They're telling us actually to fool ourselves.
Or to motivate yourself.
By what? By what?
It's not lying.
But it is. It's not true. I don't know if it's lying, but it's not true either.
Changing your method. You need to change your method.
So how? So you're telling me to change my method by fooling myself? The fact is I'm not
half-half.
It's like
It doesn't really say you are half-half. It says imagine that you are half-half.
So
it's like in a game. You
exactly.
start the game.
It could have been,
That's the difference.
That's the restart of the game, right?
it could have been worse. They could have suggested you are always more wrong than right, but they are giving you 50-50.
But it's not that 50-50 is not true. So what?
Because
So,
that gives you the
because
push to try.
so let me suggest. Let me suggest one answer. This does not have to be the real pshat. Let me just give you a small suggestion of an answer that would look more realistic. It would also answer the other question: why do Chazal only bring a pasuk for the negative side? Chote echad ya'abed tova harbe. What Chazal are actually telling us is this. A suggestion, okay? Chazal are telling us, you have absolutely no idea where your scales are when it comes to Shev Va'al Ta'aseh. You know why? Because there were so many times that you've not done the Aveira, but you never had that sense of achievement. So you never have the real idea of where your scales are.
Tova Harbe is not necessarily the future, it's also the past.
Not only that, in every Aveira, when you're confronted with the Aveira, doing the Aveira would tip the scales on the negative side. Not doing the Aveira is tipping the scales on the positive side. You don't have that trophy in your hands, you can't have that concrete sense of achievement, but that's reality, it's truth. And because it's passive, because it's so abstract, you yourself are not aware of it. Le'olam yir'eh adam atzmo, because for all practical reasons, that could always be the case. You never know where your scales are, because you're not aware of what you're not doing.
Journaling, you can journal.
Sorry?
You can journal your life, and you have a vision.
Right, but if we would do that on a minute basis, that we would be paralyzed. We wouldn't be doing anything else. We can't. We're going through life. We do not know.
You can't be an actor and also an observer.
Yeah, if somebody would be following us and writing everything down, which is happening, but we don't see it. So I'm suggesting when we come up after Me'ave Esrim, we're gonna have some surprises there, right? But the surprises are not only going to be on the negative side, the surprises are going to be on the positive side too. There have been a lot of things that we had a small nisayon and we had overcome it at the moment, but we weren't aware of it. We did not have a sense of achievement, and even at that moment, at that current moment, we did not have the feeling of anything. So we are not aware. If I look at myself in the past and I see, I've always eaten treif, I've never eaten kosher, so what? You never know. Because it's a passive issue, you never know how many times you've overcome even a slight nisayon, and it never registered. So Chazal are telling you, for all practical, Chazal are not telling you what the case is at the present moment. We don't know. You don't know where your scales are, but be aware that you don't know. Don't think that you know that it's on the negative side because the elements that would tip the positive scale, you're unaware of. Le'olam yireh adam atzmo. And Chazal bring us that one pasuk. Chote echad ya'abed tova harbe. It's this one sin. It's not only the sin that you're doing, you're losing the chance of good. If you would not sin, you would have a lot of good. It's that lot of good that you're not aware of when you did not sin. So in your past, there are a lot of times when you did not do that chote echad, and you did not lose tova harbe. It's that tova harbe that's on the positive side of the scale, and you have no idea about it. So
A mitzvah is the same. You don't know which mitzvah is more.
But a mitzvah,
important.
right. But when you do a mitzvah, you have the sense of achievement. So you're more aware of it than otherwise. We should all have a ksiva v'chasim l'toiva nagit gebencht you. Thank you for listening.